I just love the attention. I love the attention I get from the guys when we go out to party, and like it's just so much fun when a bunch of Japanese people see a foreigner walk in, and then they all look at you crazy, and then you switch to Japanese and their eyes get so big, they get so just excited.
Welcome to the Melanated Files. In this series we highlight and share the stories of black people from across the globe. Remember to subscribe to this channel for weekly videos and also follow us on social media for regular updates. Let's get into the interview.
My name is Kyle Kelly. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. If you know where that is, that's one of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the United States of America. And you know, I'm here, I'm in Japan, and I'm a foreign exchange student in Aomori prefecture, Hirosaki City. What drew me to Japan? Let's see, when I was a child, right, my body was really weak and I wasn't able to do anything. And so every day after school, all the kids went outside and played recess or whatever. They played dodgeball. And at the time I couldn't do anything. I was weak, just couldn't do anything. And so my teacher, she always played this TV show. Maybe you guys don't know of it, but it's called Naruto. And then Naruto's dream was to always become Hokage. And at the time, my dream was to go to Japan and learn Japanese. And so when Naruto became Hokage, I started to learn Japanese. And so after a year or so studying, my teacher said, hey, you can go to Japan for a year and study Japanese, some more Japanese. And so that's what pretty much drew me to Japan, and the ladies. So that's for sure. The ladies are really, there's something different, that's for sure. My experience of being an exchange student, you know, at first it is fun because you in a room, a house, in a school. I mean, you in a school full of Japanese people, but also it's an exchange house full of foreigners, right? At first it's fun, and then it kind of gets annoying, a little bit annoying, because everybody has different cultural backgrounds and different just cultural aspects about life and everything. And one country joke doesn't go well with another country joke. So you have to kind of walk on ice to kind of not offend anybody. But at first it's fine, but then you got to realize, oh, these people have cultural differences, and it's kind of hard to adapt, especially since you're American, and everybody who walks the earth lives in America. So when you go to here in Japan and you with a lot of foreigners, it's like, you know, it's fun, but it's like, I gotta be sensitive. Not sensitive, but I gotta be careful with what I say, or they just have a wrong, let's say, impression of America itself. So that's what I don't want to do. First, they get really afraid, like super scared, because they never seen, like, especially, okay, so my school is in the north part of Japan. Like, north part of Japan, there's really no foreigners there at all, except the Chinese and the Korean people. But when you look at them, they look like Japanese people, if I'm being honest. So when you see a foreigner who has my color skin or a different color, a skin color that's not, you know, yellow or white, they get really confused and they get really afraid. And then when you speak to them, they speak in a really quiet voice. But when you switch to Japanese, they get really excited, and then they start asking question after question after question after question. It's like a final exam to them, and so they just keep asking you. And so they're more than happy when you speak their language, because they feel as though they can connect to the outside world through you. So that's how it's like speaking to Japanese people. Or it could be another way, speaking to Japanese people, where they just completely ignore your existence. Like, oh, why is he in my country? So it's like that in Japan. It could be one of both ways, depending on how you look at it. At least at my school, to study abroad, right? First, you have to get an A or a B at least in all the first main 3 Japanese classes. So the first is hiragana, there's, you know, hiragana, katakana, and then kanji. Once you get an A, all that, the teacher, she approves you to go study in Japan. And so once you get approved, you have to plan 6 months to a year in advance, or what school to pick, where you're going to live, how much money you need, where you're going to travel, food, expenses, all that. You need 6 months to a year advance. And it's a lot of paperwork. And then once you buy your ticket, and then once the school you're going to approves you, then you pretty much set to go. But once you get there, that's the real challenge, because now you're in a whole different country, and not everybody's willing to help you out. And then if you don't know Japanese, it's like, it's a hard thing if you don't know Japanese. If you're in Tokyo, yeah, but if you're in the north part, like Aomori or Hokkaido or somewhere like that, where there's little to no English, it's like a needle in a haystack to try to find how people can help you out. But once you get to the school, more than likely you have a tons of paperwork to do, and then you have to fill out a bank card, a housing card. You have to go to the city hall. You got to fill out all types of information. But once it's done, you're pretty much set until you leave the country. Oh, also, one thing you have to do, and that's just an absolute rule. once you sign up for, let's see, your health insurance, you have to, before you leave Japan, make sure you cancel it, or they're just gonna keep charging you until you come back to Japan. And more than likely, you gonna have to pay that fee at the airport, or they're just not gonna let you leave the airport. So make sure you just cancel your health insurance, or you just gonna have to owe the Japanese government if you don't cancel it before you leave Japan. Oh, what do I like the most about Japan? I just love the attention. I love the attention I get from the guys when we go out to party, and like it's just so much fun when a bunch of Japanese people see a foreigner walk in, and then they all look at you crazy, and then you switch to Japanese and their eyes get so big, they get so just excited just to speak to you and learn about you. I love that aspect of just Japan itself. They're very curious about the outside world, but because of where they are and what culture they come from, they can't really experience that. So when somebody else comes from the outside world to where they're from, they're just absolutely amazed about how much we can learn and how much we can do, because we're not Japanese. So that's what I just love about Japan. Just Japanese people reactions are absolutely something amazing. I do like the quiet nature of just Aomori prefecture, just Hirosaki in general. I love the quiet nature. The second thing is the apples. The apples are truly the best thing in Japan. Like the apples in Aomori, you can buy 3 apples for 100 yen, so about less than $1 in Hirosaki, and they're just delicious. They're absolutely the best apples ever. And then Hirosaki Castle is one of the oldest castles in Japan, so it has so much history. Just Aomori in general just has so much history, and because it's not like Tokyo. Tokyo is constantly changing and trying to evolve as a city as a whole. But in Aomori, it's like old Japan. Nothing really changes. Nothing really evolves. Everything stays the same. So that's what I like about Aomori. It has to be katsudon. Katsudon is it's a bowl. Inside it is rice, and then it's the pork, the pork on top with a fried egg, and it's the best thing ever. I always eat that. It's a place in Goshogawara. It's in Aomori prefecture, and it's like you can eat a katsudon, and you can have all you can eat rice, and all you can eat cabbage, and it's the best thing ever. Only for $5, so it's the best thing ever. And there's 2 things I don't like about just Japan. So there's one thing, it's a lot of foreigners who come here, right? First thing they do is just complain. They complain about Japan, Japanese people, the food, the culture. And so to me, I'm like, why are you here? If you knew you was coming here, what you thought you was getting yourself into? I hate that. It was this one lady when I was in Hirosaki. She was a person of the same skin color I was. And she said, oh, your life is really sad because you're in Japan studying Japanese. I just looked at her. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Why are you here? And she said, oh, I have a child and they go to school here. I said, why is my life sad? Because I came here studying, trying to get a better education. And she didn't respect on what I was trying to do or what I was trying to pursue in life. She just pretty much tried to discourage me. I'm like, you're the same skin color I am. We're both in Japan, and that's how you're just gonna treat me. I just thought that was just, it just kind of pathetic. It's like, why are you here if you're just gonna like discourage other people because they're trying to do something different with their lives? It's just, I had the same stuff in America, now you're trying to do the same thing in Japan. The second thing I don't like about Japan is that Japanese people, they aren't taught to think differently. So people are taught to be the exact same in Japan. People are taught, if you're different, you're going to be judged by not only your peers, but the Japanese society itself. And so it adds so much pressure to Japanese people. There's so many creative people in Japan, but because they are taught not to think outside the box, they have to stay in that bubble and just, let's say, they follow a straight line. You know, in America, we're like, we go anywhere we want and we can pursue our happiness. Japan, if you don't follow that straight line, it's going to be hard to be happy if you just don't follow the straight Japanese way. And I think that's really sad, because I think a lot of Japanese people have a beautiful mindset and a beautiful way to just pursue their own happiness. But because of Japan's society itself, they're stuck in a bubble of do not. It's not like you can't leave Japan, but it's hard for you to adapt to the outside world, because Japan is taught them to like, hey, you're here forever. Do not leave. So that's one thing. My experience as a African American. Well, I don't like saying African American because, you know, I'm not from Africa. So I'm gonna say it as an American. My experience as an American who has a skin color of a brown male is it's quite interesting, because everybody in Japan, they have their perspective from movies. You know, movies of, oh, we all have a hoodie or a do-rag, or, you know, a gangster looking, or gun, or saggy pants and stuff like that. But when they actually see you, they like, well, you're not who you are. You're not what the movie portrayed. And so when they see that, they get confused because they don't know how to approach you. Well, for me, they it's not like they always approach me, but when I approach them, they're like I said, they're afraid to talk to you until you speak Japanese to them, and they get super surprised, and so they get really happy. And my experience so far, at least in Aomori, it's been really positive because not only I speak Japanese really fluently, and then not only once but multiple times was I offered to go out to dinner with them, and they pay for my lunch or they pay for my dinner, my breakfast, whatever I want. And every time I say no, they just keep pressuring me. I'm like, okay, so I'm just gonna eat whatever I want. If you see this, you see the most expensive thing on the menu, I'm just gonna get it. If you want to pay for it, you pay for it. But so far, it's been really positive. Not once have I been discriminated against, at least not directly. So if I've been discriminated against indirectly, then I don't care. But if I've been discriminated against directly, I think that feeling also, I just don't care, because that's just who that person is. To me, it don't matter to me. I'm just here to have, fun. I'm just here to learn Japanese and have fun. So I don't, for me at least, as a black male or a brown male, however you put it, for me at least, it's been really positive because nothing bad has happened so far. I was on the train, right? And then at the time I had a huge afro because I was scared. And there's no person who can cut your hair in Japan, but I found somebody at least. But it was before I had my haircut, I had this huge afro, and I was on the train, I fell asleep. And this old lady, she walked up to me and she just started squeezing my hair. And then when I woke up, she looked at me, she smiled, and she just kept going. And I looked at her, and I just fell back asleep. And so that was the funniest thing ever because I didn't know what was happening. I just let her touch my hair. I mean, I'm in Japan, nothing bad gonna happen, so I just let it happen. I wouldn't say it's hard. It's just that you have to be patient because Japanese people, they don't know how to deal with foreigners. So if you're a foreigner and you're trying to date a Japanese person, you have to accept that they don't know how to deal with you. And you have to accept that it takes longer for them to accept who you are and just, love you as a person. Because it took me, almost half a year to date my last girlfriend. It took me almost half a year to get her to say she liked me. So it's a challenge, but I'm sure if you're confident enough, you can do it pretty much. All those people who think you're weird if you don't follow the culture trend, or who think you're not, well, for example, for me, I've been pretty much pushed away from the people who have my same skin color in America because I don't listen to rap music. I don't curse that much. I don't disrespect people, or I don't follow the trend of an average African American or average Black American, depending on how you put it. And so because of that, I've been pushed away a lot from my own culture and my own people. But because of that, it drew me to a whole new lifestyle, a new place. Like, not everybody can come here to Japan and just adapt so easily. Not everybody can just have the confidence or the strength to just leave the country, let alone leave the city where they're from. So best life advice would be the people who push you away or the people who reject you, do not go back to those people, or don't change who you are for those people to accept you. If you like anime, or you like Japanese culture, Korean culture, wherever culture you like that's not your own, that's you like that culture. So just pretty much be yourself. Be yourself. You're happy in the end. And all those people who reject you, more than likely, they're either not where they want to be in life, or they have a negative outlook on life where they can't continue as a person. They're just stuck at that same area forever. So be yourself, be happy. Let's see, one message I could share to the world is that the world is bigger than what you think. There's so much things to look at, so much things to do in this world. But we have this, this mental block that the world is only the country we was born in. And that's not good. I think the thing everybody needs to learn is that the world is bigger than what you see. Everybody is different from the same people you see down the street or by the sidewalk every day. So my best advice is explore. I went to university in America. I only took 3 classes, which is like 12 months. So one year in total. So my first month or two, it was super difficult. I didn't understand everything. It looked like Chinese to me, honestly. Like hiragana, katakana, all that stuff looked like Chinese to me. And then it was over spring break. I didn't study at all, but I knew on that Monday we had a final exam. Not a final exam, midterms. Not midterms, just a test in general. But at the time, during spring break, I didn't study at all. But as soon as we took the test, everything just hit me. Like, it was like a hurricane. It just all hit me. My hand just started moving by itself, and I just started feeling things out. And then next thing I know it, after 3 more months, I became somewhat fluent. And then after half a year of studying, I became super fluent. Like, I know how to speak the language, or I know how to, like, just have basic conversation and just get around really easy. And then after a year, I learned hiragana, katakana, and not most, but let's say the first 500 or so kanji. Pretty much she said, hey, you want to study abroad? Because I'm an art student, so they never had an art student come to my university in Japan. So pretty much I'm a test subject, but hey, I'm a happy test subject. And so after that, after learning it, I went all the way to America. I just left America completely, went to Japan, and I learned a lot of new words and new conversational skills, new vocabulary, new grammar. So at first it is really difficult. Well, I'm really weird. I study really hard because not only that, at my university there's a lot of Japanese students, about 30, foreign exchange students. So I was really lucky to talk to them every day and improve my Japanese. And I learned a lot of dialects and a lot of just conversation, a lot of Japanese conversation, vocabulary, and grammar skills because of them. Because I learned that, that's why it only took me a year. Normally, even my teacher was surprised because she was surprised after a year I could speak really good. But normally it takes a person a year or 2 years at the most to get at least fluent, but it took me like less than a year to get fluent, and then just about a year just to leave the country, I leave America, and then just come to Japan and learn more Japanese. At my university, we have these 5 levels, right? It starts from N5 all the way to N1. N1 is advanced class, and then N5 is the most basic class. You have N5, N5, N4, N3, N2, and N1. And so I placed in N2, which is really hard for a foreigner. Like not N2, my bad. I placed the N4. That was really hard for anybody who's coming from America, because usually America start from just like the very basic. But N4 has a lot of Chinese and Korean students in there. So that's like, it's not basic class, but it's a little bit, it's more closer to the harder levels than anything. So I didn't study before the test or anything because there was no point studying it since the test is completely random. And so I placed in the test with a bunch of Chinese and Korean students. And so I was the only American. And not only that, I was the only black person in there. And so the teacher at first, she was surprised. All the teachers were surprised. And so when I spoke it, they were just amazed by how fluently I could speak it. And they asked me, do I want to take the test again so I can get to N1, which is the very advanced class. But the very advanced class is all kanji. And all kanji, yeah, I'm not Chinese, so I'm not going to do that. Let's see. じゃあ、はじめまして。僕の名前はカイルです。アメリカから来ました。テネシー州から来ました。メンフィス、テネシーから来ました。そしたら私は21歳です。今、青森県の弘前市留学生です。よろしくお願いします。Any advice for anybody who want to learn the language? Go with it in an open mind. Oh, if you learn Romanji, that's okay. But I recommend just forget it in the first month or so after learning Japanese. Forget Romanji completely, because in Japan there is no Romanji. There's really just none, zero. It's just like basic to help people start off the ground. But after that, it's all hiragana, katakana, and kanji. I say study every day, but don't study to the point where you lose interest, because once you lose interest, you'll never go back to it. And don't study Japanese that come from like Japanese animation, because of course that's Japanese, but it's not Japanese that people use every day just modern Japan. So I say study, but study to the point where you can keep interest and also learn something at the same time. Any advice for black people looking to come to Japan? I'll say best advice is don't be closed-minded. That's for sure. Don't be closed-minded. Don't look for people who look like you. I mean, you can, but the goal is when you go to a different country is to look for new people and look for just different ways and different perspective. Don't be, how you say it? Don't be rude. Don't be rude, that's for sure. Because a lot of people who come to Japan, they're really rude to Japanese people, because Japanese people, honestly, they're just too nice. But they're too nice. Their kindness is how rudeness gets started. And so don't be rude. And last but not least, do not fit the perspective of a black person. Do not fit the Japanese perspective, how I want to say it, of a black person. Don't come with your pants all the way down to your ankles. Don't come with a do-rag or pajamas on. Just be presentable. Like, you're representing your country. That's how I see it. You're representing where you come from. One person can mess up everything for everybody. So be that person who makes the change on how your culture looks from Japanese people's view. Change how Japanese people look at your culture and look at you in general. Something I could do really well. So I could take a generic photo. So let's say I took a generic photo of, let's say, a building. I can make it to the most beautiful art piece ever. I recently went to Osaka, and I took a picture of just like an average street, and then I posted, I edited it, and I posted on Instagram, and it got so many likes, and people just loved it because they never seen that type of perspective before. So I think that's one thing I can do, is just art. I can make art into something super beautiful, and then, you know, speaking Japanese is something I can really do. Yes, I do plan on coming back to Japan after I finish studying, because there's so much more I have to learn just about Japan and stuff. I just can't do everything in just 1 year. I don't have enough time for that. So I do plan on coming back probably this year in December, or somewhere around, you know, winter break or winter vacation. I do plan on coming back to Japan. In my university, I'm a 3rd year, so I'm a junior. But when I come back to America, I'll be a senior. And then after that, probably spring of 2020, I'll probably just graduate and then just come back to Japan, probably as an English teacher or something like that. Just some way to easily get back into the country and just, you know, have fun, explore the world of Japan.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to share your story or have us visit your region, send us a message on any of our social media platforms or via our website.
That's good.